Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today we are here to go back in time. We are going to jump into a movie and go back to the old school days of video rental stores, 80s, VHS tapes, and all that nostalgia that we love. And we're going to do it by taking a look at Arrow's recent release of The Last Video Store. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this.
Should we check it out?
Oh,
Are you ready to blast off on your cinematic journey here at Blaster Video? Well, let's go!
All right, so The Last Video Store, man, this was a blind buy for me. That's not something that I do that often. I've started to push myself to do more and more of that, and boy, was it worth it here. I read the synopsis on this when I think it got dropped out at the same time as Demolition Man, so of course, that's where everyone's focus was. And there was just like this other release that was setting down there. It's The Last Video Store, and people are like, huh, what's that? And, the cover looks kind of cool, nostalgic, kind of like got that 80s blue lightning going on. It's talking about video stores. All of us here are movie lovers. We're physical media lovers. We miss those days of walking through aisles and aisles of VHS tapes and checking out badass cover art, looking for things to rent, discovering movies that way, back before there was an internet to look up anything. And you just had to go and, see some cool cover art, read the back, maybe you got a sentence or two, and you had to pick it. That was your pick. You were going to rent it, and you were going to watch it a couple times that weekend before you had to be kind, rewind, and take the thing back. But this movie captures all of that. And as someone who's an independent filmmaker myself, the indie love and passion is so much in this movie. You can tell they do not have a huge budget, but it looks good. I mean, the things that are supposed to be campy are deliberately campy because it is a nod back to, and we're going to get all into it in a minute, but it is a nod back to those 80s schlock movies that we love so much and what they do for us. And even that is talked about in this movie. So we're gonna talk about just do a quick little once over of the video, the release itself, and then I want to spend a lot of time talking about the movie. So I showed you the cool cover art. Now this is a Blu-ray release. It's not a 4K. I don't know what they shot it in, but my guess is maybe they shot it in 4K digital. I'm not sure how old it is. But there's a good chance it was shot in like 2.7K or 1080p. But the way it looks, just experience, I'm guessing they shot it with 4K cameras. But it looks great. I threw it on the Panasonic UB820 and the OLED C3 over there. It looks great. So you can't look at it and buy the quality of the video is what I mean. You can't look at the quality of the video and say, oh my gosh, that's a low budget indie movie. You can't do that. And I'm honestly not sure what budget they had, but you can tell it's low. It's like a one location shoot, which is smart. If you have an indie film, it is smart to have a good, clever script with one location, because the limited amount of locations that you have, the limited amount of actors, you can put more stuff into the rest of the story. So the movie really only has a couple of actors. We'll get into that in just a second. But cool release here, great packaging. It has the 1080p presentation, the DTS audio. The audio sounds really good on this, which is something as an experienced indie filmmaker. Audio, you can have problems with audio in an independent set, but it has all kinds of extras, interviews. So it was 2013. I'll try to find it and put it up here if I can find what it was actually shot in. But it looks like it was made in might have been 2012 even that it was made. So it's been a minute ago, because some of these special features go back to 2012. It was, there's a video essay on here from film critic Heather Wixon, who is the co-author of In Search of Darkness. There's behind the scenes, there's some short films, there's trailers, there's image gallery. It is pretty well stocked for a release like this. So you slip that off, the Blu-ray here, open it up, you got some cool, maybe like Jason cover art here. And we'll get to that all in just a minute. You're going to have a cool little booklet with this. So it's not like a bare bones release at all, because you're also going to get the poster. And I dig it, man. I dig the poster. So it was in, I got to find out, I will put when it was shot and what it was shot on the screen, because it was a selection of 2023's Fright Fest and Fantastic Fest. So there's your cool poster. It's the same as the art. It's actually reversible too. But if it was, I'll find out when it was shot. But it was started making waves in the past year or so. And that is your kind of release. It does have some reversible art here. It's the same as the other side of the poster. Actually, that captures the movie so well. That art. But this film, I'd heard some people say, "Oh, I watched the trailer. I didn't like it." If you see the trailer and you don't like it, you probably were born in the late 80s. No earlier than the late 80s to early mid 90s. Because I do find that there is somewhat of a, I was just talking to my buddy Brian at the last movie standing, there is somewhat of a big disconnect from, if you were born, let's say 77 through 82, and you were born in that like 5-year span, and you were born, let's say 87 through 92, there might not be a bigger difference in the amount of, in the way you were up, like your upbringing and what you were exposed to at any other point in a 5-year span, a 15 or even a 20-year span between people born at different times than those time spans, because, and you have a few years it's kind of lost in between there. But if you were born like 77 to 82, like me, you're in that range. You started growing up as a kid, all the way through, being about 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, with almost purely analog. Like the stuff you had was not very much different than the late 50s through the 60s and 70s. As far as TV with an antenna, like all this stuff, cable didn't start to get big until more into the mid 80s. So it was very, very different. I mean, MTV came out, I think, in 80 or 81, but most people, cable was not widespread. A lot of people, and it was very basic still when it came out. I remember the big thing was when we got a news channel that was 24 hours. So cable was not what it is today. And it was still very analog looking. So it was very different. If you were born in that time period, you lived with like Elvira's late night movies. You lived with like old, movies for guys who like movies type stuff on TBS or whatever your local affiliate station was, late nights on like Friday, Saturday, stuff like that. Disney's or ABC's Sunday Night at the Movies, all this stuff with classics. It was still no different. You grew up watching, you didn't watch Friends on Nick at Night as reruns. You grew up watching Gilligan's Island and the Munsters and the Addams Family and Andy Griffith. It was very, very different. But you were also part of that generation that by the time you got to your formative years, you weren't just having digital already. You had to integrate digital and adopt it as it developed. And I think that generation there probably has more love for a movie like this, because we remember when a VHS store was the absolute biggest thing going, and it was the biggest thing going for a much larger portion of our lives. And the movies were not super sophisticated. Like, I think a lot of the reason that people in the 4K world, in physical media world, a lot of the people that don't like grain, the film grain that comes out when you restore these beautiful films to beautiful 4K from film, they don't like the film grain because they've grown up on digital. Everything is digital, sharp, and overly clean. So they think something is grungy, dirty, or distracting from a film, when film is the most natural thing closest to how your eye sees. Your eye does not see like digital. So digital is always it's going to look super clean, but it's going to be very artificial looking, because your eye, like if you look across the room, your eye doesn't see everything as far as it goes in the maximum sharp detail. That's what digital does. They try to fake it now with roll off, but like film sees much more and records much more the way your eye perceives stuff. So there's something soothing to film. And this movie kind of captures all of those vibes that I was just talking about. That's why I went on that kind of tangent. This movie captures all of that. So it stars basically two actors. You have a older guy who runs the video store, my generation or a little bit older, and you have a girl whose dad was part of that generation, and that's it. And she shows up to return 3 movies to the video store, and she encounters this weird guy who, I mean, he's still hanging on. He has the last video store.
You're a first-time customer, so today's your lucky day. You get 1 free rental.
He still loves all of those movies, and he explains it to her in the movie. He says, you know, it's not just about the movie itself. The movies don't have to be technically good. They don't have to look great. The movies are an experience that you laugh at the ridiculousness, you jump at the scares, you get your imagination going, and you have a good time and escape the rest of the world's problems, and you bond with your friends or family and whoever else watches those movies with you. And it's a connection that's just not built the same way through like a streaming. It's just not, or very disposable movies. What else made these movies that they found at a video rental store like this very, very, very cult and very like long lasting is movies didn't come out. There wasn't as many movies all the time. So, and they weren't as disposable. Movies would be around for a long time. So you would rent Friday the 13th Part 4 50 times and you would see it all the time. Or a movie like Ghostbusters would be at the theater or Back to the Future would be at the theater for 18 months. So it would be, you know, they'd have time to become a big part of society, and everyone in our culture would be watching these movies. So they became more ingrained, and that left a mark on this guy, and he still owns his video rental store, and he still longs for those days, and he is trying to spread that word to everyone else. And I feel very much of a kinship with the guy in this movie that runs the store, and so should every physical media and movie fan out there, because he's trying to explain all this, what it means to the next generation, and have it live on. And that's a lot of what we do here on YouTube as movie reviewers, 4K reviewers, physical media channels, movie lovers. We come from that era or just a little after, but we have that love that was, if you're younger, it was probably instilled by someone a little bit older. And we are trying to, out here in YouTube land, explain this love, this nostalgia, this importance to the next generation so that they pick it up and run with it and take off, and it never dies. All of that, because it feels like, and this guy is the same way, to me it feels like if that were to die and be gone, a part of me would die. A part of my past, a part of my life, a big part of what I am would be lost. So if it's not carried forward, if we don't pass on that love and nostalgia, it'll fall, it'll die, and it'll disappear from history. And he is preserving history. That is what we're doing. That's what this movie's about. He's got his video store. He's got all these VHS tapes with these B movies and everything else. That's what all these boutiques are doing. That is what we're doing on YouTube. We're preserving these movies for a whole new generation, and we're reliving them at the same time. And this whole movie is about getting that point across to this girl who's younger of the next generation, but it's done in a fun 80s schlocky way. She has another tape that her dad had. He has gone missing. He died. We don't know why. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. But he left the video Comracon. It's basically supposed to be the Necronomicon. But it's a videotape version. It looks just like the Necronomicon, except for it's a VHS tape.
The dreaded Video Nomicon.
And they pop this thing in, and it starts to bring all of these B-movie knockoffs to life. So this would be very cool if you had a massive budget and you could have brought the real Jason from Friday the 13th, the real like Rambo or, Jean-Claude Van Damme character out, or a Chuck Norris character, or you could have brought the real alien from the Aliens movie. But it's kind of fitting that they had to create like B-movie schlock knockoff versions of those to come out, because it kind of just underscores the point more. Now, I feel like if you had the huge budget and you could get those licensings and you could do that and you could expand it, man, it would be super cool. But there's something so charming, so cool, and so fitting about them having to not be able to get the brand names. They had to get the Wish version of those, the Temu version of those characters. But it works so well. They have a hockey mask killer that comes out. They have an alien creature that comes out that's supposed to be like the alien. They have, the Chuck Norris, all this stuff, or the Van Damme type Rambo character. All this stuff's in the trailer. Not really spoiling anything. But they have to now survive this. They have to survive a movie at a time. They have to use their knowledge of the movies and of the tropes of different horror and action movies and everything else. They have to use all that to help them survive and try to escape this. And of course, all this takes place in the last video rental store. Man, it has your purple and blue 80s lightning. It has homages to like old 80s training montage sequences from like action movies and fight movies. And of course, your tips of the cap to the ridiculous slasher movie tropes that we've set up. All of those things are here. It is a love letter to physical media, 80s, like 70s, 80s schlock movie, or the movies that we grew up on, nostalgia, the stuff you would have found in a video rental store. And it is a love letter to physical media collectors and movie lovers to pick that mantle up and keep going and passing it on to the next generation. And the fact that it was done by indie filmmakers on an indie film budget, man, that adds so much to it to me. And hopefully I've been showing some clips as I've been going along here. There's so much to love about this. An awesome blind buy. You can go get this right now. As I'm recording this, it's January of 2025. So there is a Arrow 50% off at Barnes & Noble sale going on. I highly recommend this. It is everything that we stand for in the physical media, YouTube space, the movie collector world. If the heart is there, if you're in it for the heart and not just for the clicks and the views, and you love this so much, physical media, nostalgia, those old movies that we grew up with, and you want to see it live, you want to pass it on to the next generation so that you pass on that love of it and they pick it up and run with it and keep it alive. That is ultimately what this movie's about. And it's got your horror kills, it's got comedy in it, it's got dark comedy, it's got over the top comedy in some spots, but damn it, it has so much heart. This is one of my favorite blind buys recently. I will hear no slander on this movie from anyone. Because of what it stands for and everything that it is so well encapsulated. And y'all, I just recommend it so much. And I haven't seen anybody talk about it, and that's a damn shame. As an indie filmmaker, we're missing so many good indie movies out there. Indican Pictures and Magnolia Pictures that have my movie. There's others out there too that like Terror Films, all these different companies that pick up all of these indie movies that were made from like at the turn of the digital, like maybe the 2009, 2010 to 2020, 2018, 19. Like when I was out there making movies, there's so much of that that's lost and people aren't paying attention to, that has so much heart. We're caught up on why should this get a release, that get a release. We're missing the heart of the matter. Everything deserves to have a 4K release, a physical media release, and be out there and enjoyed and brought from this generation, the past generation, to the next generations, and spread that love and do it all with some damn 80s blue lightning in a VHS store, the Last Video Store. You gotta love it. Highly recommend the Last Video Store. Full of fun, full of heart, and everything that we're about can be found right here. But that's what I got for you this time. I hope you enjoyed this. We do 4K reviews, movie reviews here. We do physical media news, lists, rankings, physical media, movie discussions, all that kind of stuff from a fan and filmmaker's perspective. If that's your jam, please like, subscribe. It really helps me out. It helps me out if you decide you want to support the channel further. You can join below at my Patreon link or right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Get your name in lights, special behind-the-scenes looks at my filmmaking so you can see some of this stuff. Anatomy of a scene, see how I shoot raw scenes and then put them together and what the final product looks like. We're going to do something here where we follow along as I create another script, maybe for another movie, and do the restoration process of my own movies so that I can re-release them in big Arrow chunky box style sets. I'm going to partner up and make some sets and sell those on physical media so that I can hopefully get the money to open my own boutique and make another movie as well and restore some of these movies we love so much. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, it is so fitting with the Last Video Store to say, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.